Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to call our meeting to order. If everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we will start with public comment. Do we have any members of the public who are here to make a comment? Anyone online? Nobody?
No.
All right. Correspondence?
None.
All right, no correspondence. All right, I would entertain a motion from my online friend for consideration of approval of the Board of Selectmen special joint meeting from February 25th, 2025.
So moved.
Oh, wait, oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry, Dan, wrong one. March 4th, 2025. Can we move that one
Hold
down?
on here.
Please.
Yeah, March 5th. Okay, I move that we approve the minutes for March 5th.
March 5th or 4th?
March
Mary?
4th.
March 4th. I'm sorry. I thought you said 4th.
Sorry. I second. Any discussion?
Nope.
All right, hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. And for anyone who's watching on TV or for our guest, Richie Straighten wasn't available tonight, and First Selectman Carter is via Zoom tonight. So that's why you only see one member. We can only see three. Okay. Reports. Dan, do you have a report for us?
I'll forego it and we'll do it on the next meeting.
Okay. Seeing that we have no old business, new business, the walkthrough audit presentation.
So I'm going to give a real quick overview, and I have my notes here, and I'll hand it over to Gabriella. So good evening, Selectman Terzian, First Selectman, and the public. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Sustainable Bethel Commission's Walk Audit Report. My name is Catherine Hebert, and I serve as the chairman of the commission. Before turning the presentation over to Gabriela Hernandez, who is the vice chairman of the commission, I'd like to provide a brief overview as to why we conducted a walk audit. So why did we conduct a walk audit in the Stony Hill area? During the commission's participation in the Sustainable Connecticut certification process, through which the town of Bethel ultimately earned the bronze certification this past fall 2024, we were required to complete a project with a lasting, forward-looking impact on the town. To identify a meaningful initiative, we engaged the First Selectman, the directors of Economic Development, Planning and Zoning, Sustainable Connecticut team, and of course, our commissioners. After careful consideration, we decided that a walk audit in the Stony Hill area collectively aligned with our goals. We utilized the AARP's Walk Audit Toolkit as a resource and determined that Stony Hill was an ideal focus area. While the town has conducted studies and improvements in the downtown area, Route 6 Stony Hill remains largely unwalkable. Given its proximity to residential neighborhoods and businesses, we saw an opportunity to explore ways to enhance pedestrian safety, accessibility, and connectivity in this corridor. This led us to undertake the walk audit in the Stony Hill area. Gabriela Hernandez led and project managed the process with Kelly Coladarsi, who is also commissioner. With that, I turn this over to Gabriela to present to you the commission's walk audit report. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Great. All right. So like Catherine said, the walk audit was in the Stony Hill Route 6 area between Hollandia and Heath Road, including the intersection with Old Hollyville Road. And we did capture some pedestrian experience going down to Mitchell Park overall. One thing I'd like to add to Catherine's introduction is that with the outreach initiative as part of the toolkit with the Sustainable Connecticut process, we engaged the community. The purpose of the project is to have the town residents have direct impact on what the town is doing. And through different surveys and engagements, events, we understood that health and wellness, the walkability of the town, open space, and low impact or sustainable improvements to the town infrastructure is really important to the residents that we engaged with. So the concerns, I'm sure you guys have heard, it's usually a hot topic. The impact of the housing developments in the area to the traffic congestion, the pedestrian and cyclist safety, and the infrastructure. One of the consistent things captured in the walk audit was that the sidewalks in the area are inconsistent, and which means that they don't meet the Americans with Disabilities Act, which protects people with disability in public spaces, including the accessibility to the town's public land. The need to address the dangerous intersection with pedestrian safety improvement, like crosswalks, tactile or audio visual walking signals, and beacons. There are a couple of those things, but they don't always work or things are damaged. In the Stony Hill area, there is extremely limited public transit, and the bus stops that are available there usually do not have shelter from the weather or the elements. There's sometimes damaged or missing signage, and it is very difficult to get from the sidewalk to the stops or onto the bus. That's something that was captured. This is a snapshot of the area using Google Maps, and you can see that Mitchell Park is included, and people walk sort of up and down the Route 6 Stony Hill Road.
Can I ask a question quickly? Where is Mitchell Park on Stony Hill?
It's on Old Hollyville. So,
Oh, that's the ball fields and all that.
right.
Okay, thank you.
So some of you may have seen these flyers around. This was the communication that we used to get the word out. The Sustainable Bethel Commission, in particular, Kelly and I informed the town of Bethel, the different departments, the boards and commissions. We informed local businesses and workers, transit riders, walkers, and residents of the neighborhoods in the surrounding area. We communicated with these community partners through flyers, word of mouth, social media, online community calendars, newsletters, and the bulletins. I believe, so we also, as mentioned before, we use the AARP toolkit, which is a ready-to-use tool that provided consistency in capturing the experience of the Stony Hill Road Route 6 area, again, between Hollandia and Reed Road, and including Old Hollyville down to Mitchell Park. The walk audit can gather input about community infrastructure and the need for improvements. It can educate residents on design elements to support safety and empower community members and local leaders to become agents of the needed change. A walk audit can ultimately, hopefully, lead to the reduction in traffic congestion and pollution, healthier, more active lifestyles, and increased property values and safer streets for all people of all ages and all mobilities. Just some quick pictures of the day. That's the Sustainable Bethel Commission team that was there present that day. We set up right at the corner where the old Wells Fargo that's empty is there. People from the community came, they registered. We had high visibility vests for safety, clipboards, the printout of the toolkit itself. We gave a rundown of how to use the toolkit things to capture, making sure that people wrote down as much as possible. And then people were off, and we started focusing on the Stony Hill Road and Old Hollyville intersection, so like the actual intersection itself. 25 Bethel residents volunteered as individuals and groups, mostly families, and there was 9 completed toolkits on May 18th, 2024. And we also had 1 bicycle audit, which is the same tool except focusing on cyclist infrastructure. That was completed on May 30th, 2024. So thank you for the volunteers. These compiled observations are captured directly from the toolkits themselves. This is one of the drawn images. One of the participants included where the issues are, and that's basically every intersection along the Stony Hill Road corridor. So the state road intersecting with all the town roads are potential dangerous intersections. The crosswalk beacon on Mount Laurel does not work. It's there, but it doesn't do anything to the light, to the crossing. Here's an image to capture perfectly. That is new construction. Now it's finished. This is last year. And that beacon is still inaccessible, even though there's a partial sidewalk behind it. Another image of a potential solution, basically making sure that the entire intersection is covered with crosswalks so that anybody can get from one corner to the next. Other observations captured. Some of these are really detailed because they are in fact from the toolkits. So I'm gonna summarize a bit. So looking towards the barnyard, there aren't good sections of sidewalks. It's not continuous, and there aren't any safe crossings. So if you're on Stony Hill and Old Hollyville walking towards barnyard, there isn't really a safe place to do so or to cross the street. This is more pictures. Another image of lack of ramps. So the ADA compliant ramps would connect any intersection and street with the existing sidewalk. This parking lot ramp is crumbling. Again, more pictures. These are captured by the participants of the day. Another great example of inaccessible walkways. So, you know, it limits who can be on the sidewalks. There are missing ADA compliant ramps and sidewalks all the way to Maplewood, Copper Square Homes, and the other new developments. So there are some new sidewalks, but they don't all connect. A great example of a much needed crosswalk area. This would be connecting the Copper Square Homes to the Agricultural Center, which is a great town resource. Little construction cleanup needed. Is it still there? So yes, the observations on Stony Hill Road, Route 6 and Old Hollyville. Major intersection does not have crosswalks, signals, or beacons. Sidewalk on southwest corner of Old Hollyville does not have ramps. No access to the intersection. Dangerous. And according to all of the people that we talked to about this, there are frequent accidents up until now, not necessarily fatalities, but there are in fact often and frequent accidents. So this is a great picture of the big intersection, and you can see there is no connection, no ramps, no completed sidewalks, no safety beacons, nothing that stops the traffic so pedestrians can cross safely. And local businesses on either side are therefore also limited, right? If somebody's there for lunch, they're trying to run errands. It limits where you go and how much you get done. Even business owners themselves trying to get across the street to the bank on a daily basis for their business practices, it's difficult to do so. Limited public transit bus stops near the firehouse, the ramps, again, not there. There aren't any transit stop shelters or lights. The bus signage was missing on the Copper Square side and damaged on the firehouse side. So it's very inconsistent throughout. Here is a picture of the bus stop in the middle of the grass. How are we getting on the bus? And that was an example of communicating with transit riders. Another image from a different participant, again, capturing the area. Frequent use of traffic lights. So now we're focusing on Stony Hill and the intersection with Benedict Road. And in that particular intersection, the frequency of the traffic lights cause heavy traffic because of long wait times for turning. So that's a concern for the residents in the area. The impact that the new housing developments will have to the increased traffic congestion and capturing that car drivers do not respect speed limits. And in particular, Garella Road, there's a lot of speeding on there. There's, children, pets, pedestrians of all ages. So it's a dangerous area for residents. This is an image capturing Old Hollyville itself from Stony Hill to Mitchell Park. In the image, you can see one is a sidewalk and the other side does not have a sidewalk. Mitchell Park itself has 4 baseball fields for in-town and travel baseball from March to October. The families that play baseball are concerned that there aren't any sidewalks or buffers from the baseball field to the Dunkin' Donuts to the Stony Hill Corner Plaza, which is on the west side of Old Hollyville Road. And, families are concerned for the safety of children that walk along for the games or after the games or for snacks or things like that. So there is not a sidewalk on the west side. This is, again, capturing that there are no indicators at the intersection of Old Hollyville and Stony Hill. There is a crosswalk from the west side to the east side. So if you're on the Duncan side, you can cross the street to the Big Y side, very close to the park. And there is no public transit down that road at all. On the Big Y side is a pretty okay sidewalk, although narrow. It's still in good condition on the east side. There is the crosswalk from the east to west across Old Hollyville does have signage on both sides alerting drivers of pedestrians. So that's it's a great example of a crosswalk. The bike audit captured the lack of cyclist infrastructure. There just isn't anything that alerts motorists of cyclists and cyclists. They're sort of at the mercy of traffic. Inconsistent sidewalks. There are some debris, as we saw in the pictures, that impede either riding on the sidewalk or some of it on the street. The area just does not appear safe for riders of all ages or abilities or demographics. So the overall rating of the walkability in the Stony Hill road area is mixed. Leaning on poor because of the inconsistency and the lack of ADA compliant ramps. The things that are there, like the crosswalk, are great. But again, with the public transit access being so limited, it's overall not the best score. So we're on the mixed to poor end of the existing infrastructure. Now, why should the streets be pedestrian friendly? The streets should be pedestrian friendly to support healthier habits and improve wellness. People of all mobilities and ages and abilities will have the infrastructure needed to develop and maintain independence without the need for a car. People who don't drive or who don't have access to a car, so meaning any and everyone should be able to walk safely and ride public transit or bicycle to get to local businesses all over. So again, expanding the access to the economy. Again, sustainable infrastructure supports the accessibility of all people engaging with businesses, customers, getting to places frequently and safely, being able to walk or ride public transit to grocery stores, banks, salons, restaurants, medical offices, insurance agencies, will decrease the number of cars on the road and also decreasing the pollution, improving health and wellness. So it's one of those things, if you build it, they will come. People use public transit when it is available. People walk to the store when it is available, and that will free up some much coveted parking in certain areas. Local workers and employees should be able to walk safely to lunch, run errands, not wasting time crossing the street or risking their safety to do so. More people walking and using public transit or riding bike will open up the parking spaces for those that are dependent on vehicles for their mobility. So that frees up that space for people that do in fact need it. Less traffic, less pollution, higher quality of life for the Bethel community. And here is a compilation of the Build a Better Block page of the audit. So I've highlighted all of the things that all of the participants highlighted. Not everybody chose the same things, but these are the overall themes. So again, include improving the walkability of the area by improving sidewalks, safety barriers, or landscaping, low wall fencing, different options, crosswalks, raised crosswalks, or bulb out pedestrian intersections, which we have some in downtown. This is the definitions of a lot of these words, like bulb out, pedestrian island, pedestrian friendly lighting, potential for outdoor seating, benches for public use, public art, shelter from the elements, and transit bus stops, street trees and landscaping, which diminishes heat sinks when there's a lot of concrete, making walking a lot more comfortable. Potential drinking fountains or trash receptacles. Again, another explanation of the types of sustainable improvements that can be done. In the image, you can see the purple lane is the bike lane. There's plants and landscaping. There's some parking on that side. So there are options to look at in terms of what sustainable infrastructure can add to the safety of pedestrians and cyclists. Yep, possible solutions. Again, crosswalks, blinking yellow lights, pedestrian signs, pedestrian beacons with audio, tactile and visual signage. Again, the ADA compliance is really key to that accessibility so that the curbs are accessible, the sidewalks are accessible, and can connect people safely. And of all types of abilities. I think that's the part that is often forgotten. Just because you and I could walk across the grassy knoll, that doesn't mean that everybody can. So having that accessibility is really important. These are the suggested areas for crosswalk. So again, along Stony Hill, at Hollyville, at Redwood Drive, at the entrance of the Bethel Shopping Center, that's the big Y, at Reed Road, turning onto Copper Square Drive, in front of the fire department, and the agricultural center. Yep, all possible solutions. Some participants included roundabouts, traffic rotaries. There's different definitions for the different sizes, so it really depends on what would be determined. But Benedict Road and Reed Road would be potential areas for some sort of roundabout solution to mitigate traffic and congestion. Again, sidewalks and traffic signals that give pedestrians the right of way and stop traffic. All the potential solutions, whether it be landscaping, trees, or bulb out sidewalks, all the solutions should be designed with all users in mind, whether they're walking, riding, driving, rolling, either in a wheelchair or mobility aid, or for strollers, or people using public transit. It really should be a well-rounded consideration for all potential users. This is the Build a Better block for the bike audit itself, and it mirrors the walk audit, needing bike lane infrastructure, safety barriers, whether it's landscaping or actual, those like cement blocks or fencing, crosswalks, shelter from the elements, green space, trees, and lower speed limits would probably very much increase the safety of cyclists. Yes, barrier protected bike lanes for cyclists to be safe for moving vehicles on both sides of Stony Hill, Route 6, or car-free paths or trails, signage, and traffic signal for cyclists. These are all potential solutions to the need for improved safety. And again, making sure that those options are ADA compliant. In suggestion for bike parking at Bethel Shopping Center near Big Y or Starbucks. Sustainable safety infrastructure that includes trees and landscaping are possible solutions. Another, shifting towards the public transit bit, collaborating with Hart Transit to update the online maps. So, indicating on, I know that Hart Transit doesn't necessarily have interactive maps, but on Google, let's say, making sure that the bus stops are visible so that people planning their trips around town know where the bus stops are. Because right now it's sort of, if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you don't know. So, and working with Hart Transit to improve the accessibility, the shelters, and the signage of the bus stops in the area. So collaborating with the necessary. Overall, whatever the solutions are, these are the recommendations provided from town residents through this toolkit. The solutions definitely need collaboration between all of the Bethel municipal departments, the boards and commissions, Bethel residents, the local business owners and workers, the process of having all that approved by the local traffic authority and the Connecticut Department of Transportation, and all the necessary agencies. needed to plan and implement sustainable traffic calming features designed with all users in mind. Again, whether they're walking, riding, driving, rolling a wheelchair, mobility aids, or strollers, again, and riding public transit. One of the it's necessary that the municipal departments, the boards and commissions review the current planning and zoning designations and building development code to potentially modify and add language to mitigate the growing concerns documented in this report. So this issue is an ongoing issue that has been, you know, brought up in various stages at different times. Some people can, you know, have talked about 20 years ago or even more. Some people talk about it more recently, but ultimately the new language and the sustainable guidelines that will help local owners and developers, contractors in correcting and maintaining the safety standards beneficial to all groups, especially vulnerable groups that are often forgotten or left out. It is really needed when we are redesigning these areas, that they're not designed just for cars, but in fact for everybody. The Bethel Walk Audit Summary Report was in fact used to help as submitted as part of the grant application process that was seeking around $400,000 for planning and designing. And in fact, it did, the town of Bethel received, I believe, $160,000 grant for planning and design of the Stony Hill area. So using that grant money to find sustainable traffic calming solutions that focus on pedestrians and mobility of all kinds, with the help of public transit, will free up a lot of the parking issues and the congestion, and again, the pollution, adding to health and wellness. Just another visual reminder. Again, the concern and issues of limited walkability and limited access existed prior to the inception of Sustainable Bethel Commission, really. One of the residents that was really involved in the walk audit process shared with us their prior communication with the various people, because she reached out to a lot of different people. So the Department of Transportation, their communication, the next couple of slides includes direct quotes from their email communication. And I included it in this because it is clear, it has clear outline for a path for potential resolution to these concerns and requests of installing a crosswalk at the Route 6 Stony Hill Old Hollyville Road area. And highlighting that although the road in question is a state road, the requests and suggestions must be reviewed by the local traffic authority. Our local traffic authority is the Bethel Police Department. And those requests can be forwarded to the Connecticut Department of Transportation, the Division of Traffic Engineering. So the local police commission, the police commission, sorry, not the department. The police commission is the local traffic authority here in Bethel. So all correspondence needs to go through that process. Lastly, the local traffic authority must submit a request to the Department of Transportation, Division of Traffic Engineering. And here I included the email of that department and also some potential guidelines that I found that are guides from the Department of Transportation to the local traffic authorities. So these are helpful guidelines that can aid in the resolution of finding sustainable safety features for the improvement of the walkability in the Stony Hill area. that is the conclusion of the summary report. Any questions?
Yeah. So what is the
Oh.
next step?
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have asked any questions.
You did-
There aren't any questions right now,
Yeah,
right?
we'll just wait to be recognized. We'll open it up for public comment.
Okay.
Dan, do you have anything that you want to ask?
Not so much anything I want to ask. I mean, obviously, I want to thank Sustainable Bethel and Gabrielle for doing this. You know, it was instrumental in us getting, technically, it's a $200,000 total grant because 40 grand will come from funds that we have already, 160 from federal sources. And it's called a Safe Streets for All. So it will look at all those things along Stony Hill and some other places in town. And it's worth noting that we've had success, or I should say we will have success. We have another Safe Streets for All grant that was given to Westcog with some projects in Bethel, which hopefully are going to get started the next year, including some dynamic speed signs and some high visibility crosswalks and things like that downtown. So what you've done is fantastic. It's going to be very helpful. The next step is to follow through with the planning study. The reason that's important is it's going to give us, some concrete plans that we can go with, and that'll open the door for future funding to get the actual changes made. So that is going to be the next step. So thank you so much, Gabby. I'm sorry, Gabrielle.
Thank you.
Just maybe one or two questions. You mentioned that the crosswalk button isn't working at Mount Laurel Plaza. Did anyone report that to the police department so they can call the state? Or do
I
they still-
personally did not.
I'll take care of it tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
we'll call the state. The state, for people who don't know, I was a policeman for 27 years, and I actually was the liaison with the state Department of Transportation for our department. So the state has a traffic light division. So some of the concerns that you guys mentioned here really can be handled very easily with a call to that group who will come out and look at it. I can talk to the chief.
I do know that the person we were corresponding with, they in fact did mention it to the police department because there were so many communications. She ended up
I'll just-
speaking with the local
Yeah.
traffic authority. So
It's not a big deal to follow up on that.
No.
Some of your other comments about traffic lights and the lengths of time, those are designed by traffic engineers through the state. So, if the police department goes out and looks at it and they feel like, well, maybe it is an issue, maybe it's a little long, they'll defer it to the state, and the state will send their traffic engineers out again just to look at the timing of the lights. So again, I'll echo Dan's sentiments that, we do take pedestrian safety very seriously on this board. I mean, we decided it was actually Greenwood Avenue to be installing those lights on the crosswalks because we've been waiting so long for the state to send the promised money to us, but it's a dangerous situation. So, I think as you guys continue on with your planning, you'll get support from the local boards and commissions to improve safety for our residents. Now I will open up the questions from our public.
So where does this all go next? How long is this process?
So from my understanding, it's a long process. It's going to, I don't want to say a timeline because there's no way of knowing. The next step, like Dan said, is to design and plan the initial proposal. So looking at the area and physically making the intended solutions to be presented to the next step of approval.
I mean, a roundabout or something like that could take years
Oh, sure.
for the state to design. Some of it's pretty simple for the state. It just really depends on the recommendations. Some of the issues come where you're coming into private properties, like some of those properties were built before the codes changed.
Right.
And obviously you'll get some resistance from some people unless, the state and the town are paying for it. So, but they'll work through it. I think we have a question from someone online.
Yeah.
Oh, Nancy. You got on mute.
Yep, I did. So I'm here.
We got,
So I just wanted to say thank you to Gabriella, Kelly, and the rest of the commission for working through this, and for all the people who participated. I had intended to, but then I was out of town when, where I live is actually kind of between downtown and Stony Hill. So I always have a choice of where, what's closer as far as, shopping, going to a restaurant, etc. And downtown's always easy because I can park and get out and walk. Stony Hill, not so much. And as there's more development, not just along the road, Route 6, but in the neighborhoods adjacent, they've grown tremendously 20, 30 or more years. More people, I think, would like to go out to and use the businesses there. And the walkability of it is always questionable. I'm wondering, so like with Copper Square or whatever, are there any, I don't know, once they start to get, a developer starts to get something together as far as building there, is there anything that the town is requiring of those developers when they're building for improvement in traffic flow? Do they have to put the lights in, et cetera? Or is that, being Route 6, have to be done along with the state, et cetera?
I do not know.
Honestly, you would have to, planning and zoning on some projects does require sidewalk improvements. Generally, the state, if a traffic light is required, the state, generally will not do that. They'll have the developer pay for that, a request like that. Generally, it's my experience. One of the nursing homes that we worked with wanted a traffic light in the state, so
Right.
you could pay for it. So, I think that's a good question for our zoning, and when we have a new town planner in office, those are the people we really want to speak to about that. But I do know on a lot of current projects, they do require sidewalks. You see some of them on Worcester Street where they required, as part of the development, a sidewalk put in, or, some of the other larger scale subdivisions and things, they have required those sidewalks be placed up. So,
Right.
If I can
And
add,
then go ahead.
yeah, one of the possible solutions that was captured there, and I just want to highlight it again, is in fact helping, guiding, supporting, reviewing some of that language so that some of those gaps can be met, so
Right.
that developers know that they should be doing everything to connect to the ramp or the road, or the wording be reflective of how to meet the needs of the safety features.
Yeah, that sounds good. Because an observation I'll make too, and then as far as driving, so I often have to go a few times a week. I've had to go through the area to get on 84 to go towards Stanberry during the afternoon, evening rush hour time. And if there is an accident on 84 heading west, everybody gets off the highway and gets on Route 6 and goes up into either Newtown, or maybe they get back on exit 9, exit 10. But it becomes this big traffic backup. I don't know if anybody noticed that during the walk order. They were doing it during the day, but I've noticed that in the late afternoon, early evening. As I said, I'm going the other way to head in to get onto 84 and then go into Danbury. And it's crazy. Nothing, it's just an observation. We can't stop people from going where they're going to go.
I think what was captured is the length of time, the length of wait times at the lights. I think
Yes.
that's
Yep. Mhm.
people feel it.
So
All
thanks
right.
again for all your work.
all right, thank you, Nancy.
Sure.
So piggybacking on Nancy had to say, I live at Copper Square. I have for 10 years. So I've been waiting a long time. So we walk as best we can. We shoot across the road to take advantage of the farmer's market, to run to the store, when you just don't want to get in your car and drive. There's no doubt we need safety, but having been on the board of Copper Square at one point, I had documents that I was able to go through And I don't know if anyone in this room knows who Patricia Grist was, who was chairman of, I guess, planning and zoning.
Yeah, I know, Pat.
So a letter that she shared in 2013 to the attorney who was, he was Peter Olson, Land Use and Conservation Council. I guess he was representing the developer who was submitting the first part of converting the old inn into what is now Maplewood, Copper Square, and the Grand at Stony Hill. I think they were called parcels B1, 2, and 3. And in that, the language that they use, and that's where I'm confused. When the chairman of planning and zoning says there's a recommendation, and they acknowledge in that it's a state road. Basically what they're saying was, be nice if we could do this, or we should do this, but then it doesn't sound like there's a mechanism in place for anyone to actually do it or be required to do it, subject to ascertaining the permits to develop the project. And at the end of the day, the developers are the most anxious to get their approvals. And if you don't put something on it that says, like you said, they have to pay for the light. We worked at a store in White Plains. That store wanted a light into their parking lot. They paid what? To the city of White Plains, $500,000. But they wanted that light. So they paid for that light. If we don't make it a condition, then why would they bother to spend the money or the time to petition to the state? Because it does sound cumbersome. But at the end of the day, why go through, if you'll indulge me, it literally says the town recognizes, this project will necessitate improvements to State Route 6. The commission acknowledges that the State Department of Transportation has final authority to review and approve any changes to the road width, traffic patterns, speed limits, signage, and signalization. The commission, the town's traffic consultant, and the applicant's traffic engineer agree that road widening is necessary to accommodate the increase in traffic on the road. Specifically, the commission, the town's consultant, and the applicant's engineer recommend that road widening should include new left turn lane pockets along the development's frontage for each of the proposed access drives as shown on the plan entitled Roadway Widening Plan Proposed Mixed-Use Development, 48-50 Stony Hill Road, blah, 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 prepared by Malone and Raccoon, dated November 28, 2013. This would include provisions for adequate width, through lanes, and side shoulders. There is also agreement that signalized intersection of Route 6 and Old Holyville Road must be improved to better manage existing and future traffic conditions. The commission recommends blah, blah, blah. The commission recommends that sidewalks be installed on Stony Hill Road from subject property eastward along the frontage of property located at 68 Stony Hill Road, aka Mount Laurel Plaza, to the intersection of Old Holyville Road, a walkable connection from the project site to established area commercial plazas to promote a pedestrian-friendly environment. I can go on, but I don't want to for this. So it was all in there. 2013, that's 12 years. I guess, and if no one in this room can answer it, I completely understand. Please direct me to who can just say, why do we bother? Or what's the purpose of all that language if nothing's followed up on? It doesn't sound like planning and zoning has the right to say, sorry, you want permit? You get this done. As part of, they put in the beautiful sidewalks. They put in the old vintage street lamps. So we did aesthetics, we did plantings. But for what? If you, and each of those beautiful lanterns was $35,000 because I had to get the price for replacement for our engineer study because it's on the association to replace them if need be. So we did all that and then nothing else was followed through. So, and it sounds like we're supposed to go to the police commissioner and then he's going to petition to the state. What is the purpose of planning and zoning then, if not to make requirements regarding planning and zoning these areas when you're changing them to what is now, we have over 500 residential units in multiple rental and very expensive purchase developments. Our board in its infinite wisdom, since your walk audit was done, we always used in the 10 years we lived there, come up Stony Hill off the highway, and we would go to the next exit to use our easement because that had a left turn lane put in. And instead of getting rear-ended, we would sit in that left turn to go into the adjacent property that is now the Grand at Stony Hill and go into our complex. We never ever used our main entrance because it's dangerous. So now our board somehow, although I was told by Beth and zoning repeatedly, there was no way we could put a gate to close that secondary entrance. Not a chain, not a breakaway, nothing. And somehow last fall, somebody found something that allowed our board to put up this stupid gate, which now limits me. I can no longer go in and out safely on weekends when the highway's backed up and everyone gets off exit 9 to come down Stony Hill. We have to inch our way out of our driveway, force our way into the oncoming, and then wait until those cars move so that you can see the car shooting down over the hill before they sideswipe you, or God help you if you're going straight across the weed. Good luck, say a prayer. So I no longer have a safe entrance or exit because the left turn lane was never put in for us. And now they blocked the other gate. So you've really left us in a very dangerous situation. There are constantly car accidents. And I'm sorry, I appreciate all the work and it emphasized a lot on biking and walking. But since your audit was done, now just driving in and out of our own complex is taking our life in our hands when the traffic's backed up. And if you're sitting waiting to make a left at the bottom of when you come down the hill from the highway, you just watch your rearview mirror and you pray they're going to see you and swerve around you while you're waiting to make a left into Copper Square, because God forbid anyone leave a break in the traffic. They got to get that car length ahead. So they're going to block our entrance and I have to wait until they move. So I don't know who has to ask for what, and I'm very confused as to why grant money has to be paid for this. I thought, honestly, I don't want to be those people, but what are my tax dollars going to, if not for this? Why are we waiting on grants? Why can't tax dollars or budget for next year be Stony Hill improvement for 500 new residents that we're getting tax income from, and are bringing their money to the businesses in that downtown corridor now? I don't understand why are we begging for money from the state? Why don't we have some of it coming immediately from town money?
Again, I don't want to get into a big budget debate right now. We had, months of that, and we have a public hearing coming up tomorrow. The reality of the situation with the budget is we're laying teachers off as it stands. So it's kind of hard, to spend extra money right now when you're losing positions of educators who are teaching our kids based on, the financial situation we're in, based on insurance and other things that were out of our control. In terms of your other question is, how do these get approved? I would encourage you to reach out to, Dan, is Paul Shanley the head of planning and zoning now?
Yes, he is. He's still the chair.
He's the chair of planning and zoning. So you can start by reaching out to him, or, you can wait. I know they're in the search process right now for a new town planner, but, I really can't comment on planning and zoning issues that I'm not really familiar with. The only other thing is they might have made the recommendation and the state might have said, well, it's our road and we don't agree with it. I don't know. I haven't read, any of it. I don't want to speak out of turn. And your other issue that you talked about, the gate going across, again, it's a private, complex.
Fire access.
Right. Maybe talk to your board and try and get enough people who want the gate taken down. If you feel that it's becoming a public safety issue, maybe reach out to the fire marshal, have him look at it to see, whether he feels it's creating a hazardous condition. But again, our board is sympathetic and listening, but limited in what we can do. So those would be my suggestions, and that's my honest answer to
I just
your
would like
questions.
to see planning and zoning when they're approve all these developments in the 10 years we've watched go up. Could somebody say one of you has to chip in for a light or the crosswalk situation? That should have been funded by Randy Salvatore, Gary Michael, and all the others millionaires who are making a fortune and giving back nothing to our town.
Well, I would start with Paul. Great individual, Paul, very, responsive to people, and he could probably share like what some of the laws are and what they're bound to do. Because everything they do has to follow statute where the town can risk, getting sued, believe it or not, by developers. So, you know, I would start with Paul and address your concerns to Paul. You know, and I'm sure Dan and I will talk about safety issues. I mean, we do take it seriously. Like I said, we're taking care of Greenwood Avenue right now, and we're doing everything that we can. But I appreciate your comments.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make one comment if I could.
Of course.
Just kind of, because we've
And then-
actually.
and
what's
Go
that?
ahead, Dan. Go ahead. Someone had their hand raised, but go ahead. She's willing to wait.
Oh, I didn't see. me.
I know you can't see. She's sitting below you on the big screen. You can't see her.
Anyway, one thing, you know, part of this mess, and I agree, it's a mess up there on Route 6, is a lot of its timing. It wasn't so much that they could go after the developers for this because, you know, they did put in the sidewalks, they did do some of that stuff. But the problem was the town applied for a grant, or not a grant, but applied for a crosswalk up there, was denied. And part of the reason, believe it or not, it's that whole chicken or the egg, right? They didn't have the population up there at the time to do the crosswalk, so they denied it. Now we have the population. Now we have to reapply, which means, you know, we have to look at, you know, putting it in. I'm sure the state's going to help us with that. But to your point earlier, the safety part of this, that's why the safety grant is important, because yeah, we have to do a ton of studies up there to make sure we can get what we need. Like if it's going to be a turning lane or whatever. Westcog is already looking at part of this since the last time we spoke, back towards the, I don't know what you would call that mess around Payne Road, you know, the circle there. They're looking from that or onward into Stony Hill and trying to look at the traffic. So that's ongoing as well. But these things take time, and it's not fair, because in the meanwhile, you know, that thing's getting built and more people are moving in and the traffic's getting worse. So definitely, you know, follow up with planning and zoning with Paul Shanley. You and I can speak again, but it's just going to take us time. And yeah, it's not like we just can go out there and build a crosswalk. We still have to have the state approve it.
I think it goes to part of what Gabriella was saying about the wording, because recommendation is not a very strong word.
Right.
And if you say must, or, you know, put in strong words, then they're going to have to spend the money when they're putting out the development. And will the state help in any way with the cost of that? Like if you recommend you do the design study, you have it all in place, are they going to help fund it at all?
I mean, you know, Dan probably has a better connection with the state right now, but I know in, you know, other towns, if the state feels something's necessary, that they've, you know, given grants, you know, where they've reorganized intersections and things like that after they've done numerous traffic studies and identify a problem. I think if Westcog is going to come with money, correct, Dan?
Well, what happens is the money will get funneled through Westcog. To
Yeah.
your point. And yes, this grant actually opens the door to that funding.
But to answer your question, like, I can't speak for the state, especially again with the current, like, you know, financial situations, but I have seen in the past, you know, in the towns I've worked where they've come in and reorganized intersections and they paid for it. But again, that was kind of after they did an extensive study and said, you know, we have a problem and this is how we're going to fix it. And then it had to go through the town and all the residents were able to discuss their concerns with the various projects. And it's just a very time consuming process, but I do appreciate, I'll get to you. I do appreciate everyone's thoughtful comments, and it's very nice to see. This is probably the best attended meeting we've had, with the exception of the budget, correct? Yeah.
That's sad. That's very sad.
Well,
Very sad.
it's the truth. So one last thing, Gab. and then-
I just wanted to suggest to you that on the municipal website, you can go to the public hearing tabs, and then it lists when planning and zoning are having public hearings on particular addresses, like particular development. So if there's one that's near there that's coming up, or through their approval process, you can have public comment during those public hearings. So that might be another very direct way of getting on the
I
record.
just I want to task the wrong person. I want to just understand the way it works. So planning and zoning says, we don't have any say with the state. It's not our responsibility to go to the state to even communicate these recommendations. I just didn't realize it's on me, resident John Q. Public, to do this, to fight for a light and stuff on behalf. And, you know, should the state pay for it? Yeah, it would be great if they did. But I think developers have deeper pockets than either the state or the town.
So in the public
It should
hearings,
have been.
more
It should
often
have
than
been
not, the
on that.
developer is there. The developer is there at the public hearings. So you can ask questions directly.
All right, Nancy, you
Proposing
wanted,
the development, you mean?
you wanted to add something, Nancy? Yes,
Yeah, just, is the audit as you presented it, going to be available at the website, town website, for others who suddenly realize that, you know, oh, there was a meeting, it was presented, to be able to go and look at it?
they said yes.
Yes, we can certainly put that on the website.
So it'll stay, it'll
I've-
stay up there. Okay, good.
There. Yeah, I'm not sure where.
Yeah.
We'll make sure of that.
Anyway, I want to thank all of you for your time. We have some more town business that we need to take care of, but I really appreciate you coming out, and you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but we don't want to bore you with what's coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, as we wait for our guests to exit, take care. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
So,
you.
Bye. The next consideration of business is the approval of $13,800 for consideration of Bennett Memorial Park Pond and Dam interim repairs in the amount of $13,800. I reviewed the estimate they got. Do you want to make a motion, Dan, for discussion? Or do you want me to?
Yeah. So, yeah, I move that we approve $13,800 for the repair of the, I should say, I want to say I recommend to the Board of Finance the amount of $13,800 for the repair of the Bennett Memorial Park Dam to come out of CNR.
I'll second. I looked
And-
at. Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
for discussion, this is just the interim repair, which is the bridge, which is washing out.
This is the excavation portion, correct?
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna
This is
they're
all
gonna
the
do everything
riprap,
around the bridge to fix it.
right?
And
This is
then,
concrete and everything.
oh yeah, they're gonna concrete repair on the spillway, which is good.
Yeah, this came from, I feel, and they're gonna take care of all the engineering and everything.
Yes.
Excluding that, actually.
So that, I believe,
Do we have an engineer?
our engineer looked at it.
Okay,
Yeah, our town engineer looked at it. We were out there last year looking at the whole thing, and it definitely needs repaired sooner than later before, like, another big flood, torrential rain.
are there any special permits required, Dan? Like, do we have to go through like Army Corps of Engineers, or is there any like federal or state oversight on this, or no?
My understanding, they called and talked to Deep, but it's
Yeah.
not a registered dam, and the bridge itself doesn't need any special permit.
I mean, I feel pretty comfortable with this one, no further discussion, we can vote on it.
Works for me.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion's approved, and that was $13,800. The next item is construction of highway garage siding repairs in the amount of $23,800. I would like just to make a motion for discussion.
Second.
I did go over the estimate, and, I have some questions that I think would be good if Eric was here to answer, and I wonder if you'd be willing to table it to our next meeting.
I'm certainly willing to do that.
All right, so do we need to make a motion to table it? All
We
right,
do.
so I make a motion that we table the highway garage salt and sand for our next meeting. All those in
Second.
favor? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, that moves. And
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we table the next item, which is the YMC building chimney repair to the next.
second.
well.
Yep, second. All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion approved. Last item of business is consideration of tax funds in the amount of $11,132.04 due to overpayment. So I make a motion that we approve tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $11,132.04 for overpayment.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll try your minds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. And I know Dan's looking to rest, so I'll take a motion to adjourn unless we have any new business.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you. Feel better,
Thank you,
Dan.
Brian.